real quick before we start the episode, Melissa, a quick background on her. She's the CEO and founder of Nodpod. She worked from 2000 to 2001 as an intern under the Sacramento Kings. And then from 2001 to 2007, worked as a sales rep for 2 companies, took 3 years off. And then from 2010 to the present, for a decade and a half, she's been working with her own company called Nodpod. And I started the interview off by asking Melissa, hey, for people who don't know, what is Nodpod?
Nodpod is a sleep wellness brand, and we specialize in weighted sleep masks and weighted blankets. I have a utility patent on my mask, so it's super unique. A lot of people look at it and like, that looks different, and it is. If I go back in time, for years I didn't really call it, I call it my passion project. Oh. It was just an idea. And the idea became a business over time, and we are now 10 years in business. It took me years ahead of turning my open light on, my first day, like launching my website. So I think 5 years, like I have an idea. Now what?
Yeah.
Right? So it was definitely a long grind of learning how to find a manufacturer. I mean, you name it, everything. Like it was... I'd do it all over again for sure. I mean, I learned just today. I'm learning on the job. I tell this one woman came into my office. You're supposed to have 2 of these labor law signs, not just one. I said, hey, you learn something new every day. I'm learning on the job, and so it took me 5 years to launch Nodpod, and ever since then, it's been a wild ride. I at the time was pioneering. I didn't even know really what that was. It was just I had this idea. It happened to be unique and different, but nowhere in retail was anyone talking about deep touch pressure stimulation in 2015. So I realized I had a lot of work ahead of me. I self-funded. I had no idea what I was doing. When someone asked me, do you drop ship? I didn't know what drop shipping meant. I mean, I really, truly am here as living proof of, if you got an idea, you can do it. You really can. Yeah.
So how did the idea of the sleeping face mask, where did that come from? Was that, I know our business teacher talks about how innovative ideas, like 90% of the time, come from subconscious.
Yeah.
I know you talked about it when you were in our class, but where did that come from?
Well, so if I back up in time, I was inspired by the Shark Tank. It sounds so silly, right? Like, I love that show. Yeah. It's a great show. But it democratized inventing, because really before Shark Tank, it was a different landscape. Shopify, big commerce, like you watch these commercials now, and it's like anyone can have a business, right? And now, but back then it was really, truly, it wasn't as supportive of the culture wasn't there. When I first had this idea and the show launched. So when the show launched, season 1, I'm like, wow, really? Like, anybody can just have an idea, see a need, fill a need. That's so cool. I really want to do that. Yeah. Well, at the time, interestingly enough, I was working on a different idea. I thought it was the idea. It was this bangs, this like faux bangs, because I cut my own bangs, and it turned out horrible. And
like fake bangs? Or?
Fake bangs. Like I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if women could have like just a strip of hair just in the bathroom, not to go out, and like it's not meant to look that great, but it's just to cut and to look and be like, do I like the way I look in bangs? Because it's a big commitment. Yeah. You don't look good in bangs, you got years to
grow back
for it to grow it out. So that was my big idea, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I found my patent attorney. I had my slogan, cut ours before you cut yours.
Like, so you fully pursued it.
Oh, yeah. I was like...
Did you put money into it?
A little bit, hiring my patent attorney, which I called him and I said, I'm switching it. And but yeah, no, I had started it was a lot of time I had put into it, a lot of research on wigs, wig manufacturers, tape that wouldn't be, would be safe for the skin, and my slogan, my name. Like, that was my idea.
Were you doing these while you were working, or was that in that 3 years off?
So interestingly enough, I was already so when I left my career at GlaxoSmithKline, that was to build our family construction business, I said to my husband, take a chance on me. I really think I can help grow this company.
Yeah.
I think we need to brand the trucks. We need catalogs. We need a nice looking website. And this is traffic control. Like it's not interesting. It's not sexy. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, but I wanted to come in and make it special. And I had this big idea and it was very successful. And I think I got the bug during that period of time. So during that period of time when I'm working with my family business, I took time to also pursue kind of that what's next. You know, I'm doing something, but I've got my eye on the horizon. And when Shark Tank launched, I thought, I really want something that belongs to me. And yeah, so it was Bang's idea. And then we were on a cross-country motorhome trip. And I had a fuzzy sweatshirt that I wrapped around the body of my pillow. I'm a sensory girly, and I loved the way it felt. I'm a side sleeper too, and I loved the feeling on my cheek, and I'm on my side, and we were. And a lot of people don't know this, but you can spend the night in a Walmart parking lot without getting harassed by hey, you're loitering, or you know. And at the time, we just wanted. Our prime directive was to get to Disney World. So my husband was driving, into the night, and all of a sudden, we're in a Walmart parking lot somewhere, who knows where. And the lights are so bright, and I'm tossing and I'm turning, and I'm like, God, I'm almost asleep. And the most instinctual thing happened where I reached for the arm of my sweatshirt and I tossed it over my eyes, and it was electrifying. Yeah. Electrifying. I wasn't thinking about my bangs, my idea, Shark Tank, nothing. I was tired. I just wanted to block the light. And it was in that moment, I knew. It was like a gift from God. I can't explain it. It was a feeling. Yeah. It's very visceral. And I went, that is absolutely incredible. And as an eye mask wearer myself, I thought, I would love this. Yeah. So I woke up, got straight to the internet, and I didn't see anything like it. And everyone in my family was like, you're ditching your big bangs idea? I'm like, yeah, I am. This is so much bigger. I think it's really, really going to be a big hit. And so then I had a meeting with my patent attorney, and he says, I think it's a really simple idea. I think some of the simplest ideas are the best. I like it. I said, okay. And so I got some buy-in from him and flew my mom out. She's an excellent seamstress, and on our kitchen table, I said, okay, it's going to be long, and it's going to, has to be filled with something because the sleeve is light. It's not effective. And I wanted to eliminate the need for strap or Velcro. Why do you need it on your face all night? You just need to get you to sleep. When you're asleep, who cares if it's on or not? And my kids at the time had a pile of Beanie Babies. And I'm like, okay, I'm washing and drying these things all day long. What's in this? Polyethylene beads, poly pellets, excellent fill material because you can machine, wash, and dry it. And then, there's a lot of eye pillows that have natural fiber, like lavender and seeds. Yeah. But those can potentially generate mold spores over time. So not to bore you with the filling details, but when I was researching the beads, I came across a website that used these beads in something at the time. This is back in 2010 called a weighted blanket. You know those moments in life when you just remember, it could be 5-10 years ago, but you remember so that day, vividly, what I was wearing, what seat at the kitchen table I was sitting in, what time, everything about that moment. When I was researching these beads, what the hell's a weighted blanket? And I'm learning about something called deep touch pressure stimulation. The very simple act of applying gentle, constant pressure to your body naturally reduces stress, anxiety. It makes you feel a sense of calm, peace. This practice has already been used in the clinical space for 30 years.
Wow.
30 years with autism, ADHD, PTSD, depression, anxiety. I'm like, what? Hell yeah, I'm putting this in my sleep mask. This is incredible. Yeah. I was so... Oh my God. So no longer, at that moment, it was, okay, Nodpod this is not just about a strap-free, light-blocking, convenience thing. This is a wellness product that's going to change the world. I really think this product is going to change lives. It's a It's a big feeling
Yeah.
like that. I was so energized, and I needed that passion and obsession to sustain the years of gravel chewing, uphill battle. It was not an easy road.
Yeah, you talked about this when you were talking in our classes, the idea of those habits and the working hard. And it's like, I've asked everyone who's come on, is that something that you're born with? Is that something that you can get, right? Especially coming from a place of
Yeah.
procrastination, right? As high school and college students and people just watching this, procrastination is very common.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
do
something you ever
believe
dealt with?
entrepreneurs are born. I do. That's my belief. I believe I was born an entrepreneur. Mom and dad tell me stories. I'm always like trying to, lemonade stand
Yeah.
or God, I remember one. So one Christmas, my sisters and I all wrote down how many jobs we've had, and I won. I had 32 jobs in my life.
Wow.
But that's going back to my first job. I think I was 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And that includes babysitting and lemonade stands. But I've always worked. I've always had the drive and the hustle and the thrill of learning something new. But I do believe they're born. I've always had big ideas. When I was in high school, I wanted to write a book, and on asking clever ways of asking someone out to homecoming.
Yeah.
Like back in the 90s,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a big deal. You would have it wasn't just a sign. It was like theatrical, the
like,
whole
production.
I'm like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
should be a book. And I was writing my book in high school of ways to propose or ways to ask someone out. So I've always dreamt really big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you touched on it, working, and you've always worked.
always.
How important is that, right? Working as a kid, and what do you develop from that? I know what I've heard is you develop a sense of being able to talk to adults and being uncomfortable. What else do you get from that?
Well, a paycheck. I think, it's a product as far as like working. It depends. Growing up, I grew up in a very wealthy area. My friends had a lot of stuff, and my parents provided what I needed, not what I wanted. And I just wanted things. Like, I think it was just a drive for like, I want those Birkenstocks and I want those, like, I wanted stuff. And I love brands, and, it's a high school ambition. I wasn't really thinking about investing, or no one was talking to me about that kind of stuff. It was just, I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to make money. And I wasn't, too shy about that. Like, I really wanted to work as much as I could. And
Would you invest if you went back? Like, as a high school kid, how important is investing?
Oh, yes. And my dad was the kind of guy that, would put like his coins under the bed. Like, he's so risk averse. And it wasn't until, God, honestly, just maybe 5 years ago that I started to learn more about, because everything has always been reinvesting in the business. Every penny went right back into Nodpod. It wasn't like, well, I'll take 10% and put it in for, the S&P, or, I didn't know any of that. Just wasn't it wasn't around me growing up.
Yeah. And
then I started to listen to more business podcasts and reading books on people that I admire and all this like investing advice. I'm like, oh, I got to a place financially where I could diversify.
Yeah.
And that was exciting, So yes, investing is so, and I'm trying to teach the kids too, who's the greatest value investor? My son, Warren Buffett. Good. And what do you invest in? And, 401, all the, everything I'm learning,
Would you advise, I mean, obviously you're not a financial advisor, but you've worked with money and you've worked with these types of things. What would you rather, I mean, how would you split up, I guess, your investing? Would it be more long-term? Would it be more short-term? Would it be mutual funds, bonds? What would that look like?
So during COVID, I went like deep dive into books and investment podcasts. Like, I really got into it. And Warren Buffett, I leaned into, I read a lot of his books and watched some, YouTube video. I just wanted to absorb from the greats, and he said, I instructed my wife that if I die, that all she has to do is just invest in the S&P 500. And I thought, well, if that's good enough advice for his wife, that's good enough for me. And then the more that I read, it's just, it's not the time. What was that great quote? It's not timing the market. It's time in the market. Put it in and forget about it. And then I did a little chat GPT. What if I had put in $50 a paycheck in 90.
How much?
Oh, it was shameful. the number was in the millions. I'm like, I could have parted with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely teaching my kids to invest and the structure for me and what I'm teaching my kids is, okay, take at least 20% off the table. You make $10, take $2 and forget about it.
Yeah. Looking at your stuff, and I forgot to bring your packaging, but looking at your website, your packaging, your Instagram, visuals are very important. You can tell. How important are visual elements in your brand? How much do you value that?
Oh, it's everything to me. I think as a female, as a shopper and a consumer, that was when I first started Nodpod, I didn't give myself enough credit. It's like, oh, but I've never done this before. And what do the experts think? And what would a marketing company say? And it's like, well, but I'm a consumer and a shopper, and I know what I like. And, I've always loved sitting in an Apple store waiting for, whatever at the Genius Bar. You're sitting looking at all the packaging. It's so clean. It's so easy to read. And I'm a visual person. I'm very visual. So I had ideas of what it would look like. And I knew that it was a unique enough product that people stop and look and go, what, the packaging was going to be very important. And initially, the slogan on the packaging was "I Mask Reinvented" because weighted blankets weren't a thing.
Yep.
And in the summer of 2017, 2 years into just, a lot of tears and a lot of frustration, because I was the only one out there in retail talking about it, the Gravity blanket launched on Kickstarter. And there's one of those moments in time where I remember exactly where I was. Big, big tears. I mean, I just burst into tears because I knew Nodpod was going to make it.
Yeah.
Because they were funded. They had a great message. They presented in this beautiful way that I was still learning and figuring out. And it was so well received. Mm-hmm. And they blew their Kickstarter goal that was like 200,000 millions.
Yeah.
So I knew people wanted that and there was a need for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
is that how you identified that sort of like hole in the market? Because the sleeping market is very big.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So is that it was intuitive that you knew that Nodpod would be successful, or how was that?
I think as far as if I go way back with my my convenient light blocking device, before I realized it was going to be more of a wellness product, I knew that it was kitschy and unique, and that's fun, right? Very Shark Tank worthy, very Bed Bath and Beyond, something different.
Yeah.
So, but when I discovered that the science behind deep touch pressure stimulation, that's when everything shifted, and I knew that the message was so much bigger than just this light blocking device. But and I knew that, okay, I had time on my side because I had a utility patent. And so it was just a slow burn, a very, very slow burn. But when Gravity Blanket launched and just absolutely killed it, that was a big, big moment for me. I knew Nodpod would, rising tides lifts all ships. And now that trade show 1 month later in New York, everybody would come up to the booth. Yeah, this is like the blanket, because I didn't have my weighted blanket yet. I said, yeah, it's like that, but for your eyes. So then I get on the phone with my patent attorney and say, I need to trademark the weighted blanket for your eyes. Because then people got it. There was a frame of reference. It wasn't like, what's that? Hey, you got 5 minutes? No. Well, nobody in retail. You have seconds, not minutes.
So obviously your invention was unique, right? Very unique.
Yeah.
Have you put any personal Melissa touch on that? Has there been anything that you have done within the whole entire company that's been a personal type of thing, like a personal touch on stuff?
As far as my management style,
yeah, I mean that could go either ways. example, the name of the podcast, right? Sikhana podcast.
Yeah.
Punjabi
Yeah.
is the name. It's to learn, right? So
Sure.
any type of, is there anything unique that you've done? Whether that's how you.
Well, I think with the branding, I like to, when I first launched Nodpod, it was very much like I felt like I had to take the look at other products in Bed Bath and Beyond, which isn't around anymore. They're gone, right? Like I know they're gone here locally, but aren't they gone? Gone? Okay. But back then, when I would go walk the floors of Bed Bath and Beyond, it was like, oh, these products look, they looked a certain way, and I wanted to fit in. You kind of assimilate. You want to fit in that regard, so you kind of want to look like the others. And I was very unsure of myself. I was very afraid to step out of what looked to be the norm for a unique product like mine. And then over time, I kind of during COVID, I just felt like Gravity Blanket did a great job. Their packaging and everything was just very cool. And I'm like, ooh, that gives me this permission, this feeling that I can have more fun with this, with the packaging and the product. And then I watched a masterclass on Sarah Blakely with Spanx. And she said, with my packaging, think about like if you're talking to a friend, just how would you talk? When you look back at your packaging, would you talk to a friend like that? And that changed everything for me. I thought, you know what? I'm going to have fun with this. And everything, it was just a frame of mind. So I thought, I don't have any investors. I have nobody telling me I can't do that. I don't have to run this up anybody's flagpole but my own. And I'm pretty critical. I'm of my own work and my own self. So it's like I know that I'm just gonna lighten up and have fun, and that's really when things started to really explode for Nodpod. So
sorry, go ahead.
No,
has being self-critical ever like been a bad thing in a sense, like overly critical?
I mean, for a long time on my phone, my screensaver was, hold on, let me overthink about it.
Yeah.
Because I do. I tend to do that. But I'm better about it. I'm better about trusting my intuition and myself. And I think when you're new in an industry or in a job, you are naturally unsure.
That's fair. So in terms of the patent, right? You've had two.
I've several.
Yeah. How was that process complexity wise? Like if someone is trying to look for a patent, is there any advice that you would give them?
Hats off to Sarah Blakely, because I know she wrote her own.
Yeah.
I know my limitations. And I knew it was special enough that I wanted to really protect it really well. And I found an excellent patent attorney. And that's the best advice I can give is find someone you trust. Yeah, and that is going to ask you the questions. And they feel like, because all the questions that he asked me would only help the claims within my patent. So you really just kind of have to trust your gut on the person that you're working with, and magical things happen.
You manufacture your products in China, correct?
I do.
So we know that there's places in China that are unethical and things like that. How do you find the right places? Where does that come from?
I actually just got back from China. I had a wonderful few weeks of visiting my manufacturers. That is very important to me. And I believe that it's important to a lot of brands. And because of that, there are businesses that see a need, fill a need. There are businesses that their sole purpose it's called like ISO. There's different certifications that factories are proud to have. And these certifications are fair business practices, working hours, pay, conditions. So I make sure that they're certified in those areas, because that's very important to me. Yeah.
If you were to restart your company, where in the world would you do it? Taking account taxes, taking account all of that.
Oh, where would I headquarter?
Yeah.
Oh, California is where you want to be. I'm willing to take the tax hit. It's home. I love it. I mean, I've traveled a lot, but it's I think being happy where you are, to me, I place a lot of value on that. So there's some like, no, I'd rather live in wherever USA if I get 10% or 20% more money back in my pocket. But for me, there's that but I'm willing to pay more because I'm happy here. Like, so
Yeah.
there's that balance of work life, right?
Yeah.
So still right here in California.
Is there any place that you would recommend other people to start businesses? And that would be businesses that are manufacturing products, right? Headquartering, those type of places. Do you know any? Do you
I've
have any
heard,
advice for that?
I've heard that there are certain states that people will set up in that are more favorable
Yeah.
for taxes, but I haven't invested any time in that.
Uh-huh.
No.
Do you feel the process of starting a business as a woman has been harder in the past, what, decade and a half you've
Yeah.
been an entrepreneur?
I never saw that as a barrier.
Okay.
Ever. I never felt less than entering a room. And being that I'm in the consumer packaged goods space, there's a lot of female buyers. I've mostly been with women. But no, I never saw that as a limitation. No one has ever made me feel a certain way. I mean, I have my female owned certificate, and whether that moves the needle for someone as far as, oh, let's go with her because she's female owned. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
but
Has there been like any pivotal moments where you've been forced to like adapt, right? Has there been any of those throughout your journey?
being a female founded company,
Regardless, anything, whether that's
Yeah.
manufacturing, whether that's getting the product out there. I know you spoke about how that blew up eventually. That struggle before, was there any?
It was not, I don't think it was because, I don't know. Some buyers might have thought, oh, this lady walking by my booth doesn't even know what drop shipping means. Like, and I know when we engaged with Nordstrom, I found it interesting. They made a comment. It was a passing comment and said, oh, we've had our eye on you for a while. I think the buyer knows when you're ready, right? The synergy of I wouldn't expect, although I might have wanted Nordstrom to walk up in 2015 in Dallas and say, we'll place a PO for, this much. I'm glad that didn't happen. I would have failed terribly. I don't even think I knew what a PO stood for, purchase order, of course. But the growth, you need to grow. The passion for to be an entrepreneur. You're mentally, you're already there. You want those big POs. You visualize that warehouse, like you're already there. But there's that in between space. Sometimes you gotta just be patient.
Yeah. You blew up, and through that, obviously, you had a lot of customers. You got a lot more reviews.
Yeah.
How important did you weigh those customer reviews?
Oh my God, they're everything. When you're starting a new business, the negative reviews is where I like. Yeah, you have to. You got to take it into consideration. I think in the beginning.
Yeah. Because
you're still trying to figure maybe your product out. Maybe you're not sure if about certain elements, and then if all of a sudden you get a slew of 1-star reviews, and for example, we get a lot of negative reviews on, this is terrible for side sleeping. Oh, broke my heart. It's designed for side sleeping. They don't know how to use it right. Well, that's feedback for me, right? The feedback loop. I need to go back. I've got to look at, I'm not going to look at this and go, whatever. No, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to look at the branding. I'm going to look at our FAQ page, the package insert. So we updated that, and all of a sudden those 1 stars went to 5 stars. Brilliant for side sleeping. Love it. You got to take those objections and find a way to rework it.
Yeah. How important is we talked about this in our business class, is target market, right? Identifying your target market and capitalizing off that. What was your target market? How did you capitalize off that? What did you shift for that?
You kind of don't know. I think the market, it's that feedback loop, right? Like, who is buying this? For me, in the beginning, this product's for everyone. Yeah. In one of my marketing books I read, if you think your product's for everyone, you're not. You've got to identify who your super user is. Yeah. And really be very mindful about that. And my super user, she's female, she's a certain age group. And then that super user, then it has a halo effect, because now the husband steals the wife's mask in bed, and now he might not be. We're not selling to him. He might look at our website and say that's a very feminine looking website, But if you just be very mindful and specific about who that person is, your super user, and really make them feel like you're speaking to them, that you need that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We talked about in class ethical versus unethical marketing specifically, and that would refer to like greenwashing ads, and
Yeah,
right?
sure.
How do you market? Because I've seen some of your campaigns, I've seen some of your stuff on Instagram, on Facebook, and how do you keep that marketing honest with buyers, and how much does that affect your production, your money going into that? Like, how does that work?
It's an investment, and I want to make that investment. I'm proud that I have the margin to do the right things.
Yeah.
And one is, for example, there's a company, TerraCycle, and we send any damaged items to them and they recycle.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Now, I'm hoping TerraCycle is doing that, right?
Yeah.
I pay them to.
Yeah.
You know, so as far as I'm aware, they're doing, you know, I haven't visited their manufacturing plants, but they're a well-known, they partner with Sephora. They have, you know, little recycle kiosk for plastic cosmetics. So I'm trusting that I'm passing the baton and that they're going forward and doing, you know, the right thing.
And so if you were to start another company, right, venture out into another business field, how would that be? How hard would it be, or how easy would it be to make that company from being 100% ethical in terms of manufacturers or imports that you're getting, making sure those are 100% ethical? Would you, if you were starting another company, would you look into that? Would you look into,
yeah. I mean, that was important for me from day one. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's no secret about unethical business practices in every industry and trade. And I've always, like, my North Star is, you know, just do the right thing always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
what's the best piece of financial advice in terms of using your money that you have ever gotten? Or that lesson that you can give other people?
Well, so I'm 10 years in business, and I've just, on Thanksgiving morning, actually, had my first call with my fractional CFO. She's absolutely amazing. She's very expensive, hourly individual, but worth every penny. And she just said, wow, you know, she's looking at my books, and my books have recently now been all tidied and cleaned and put in all the right buckets, and all these financial people just love, you know, it's their world that they live in. And she said that, you know, your margins are great, you're profitable, you really did great. And all this while she's asking me, this is the CFO, like, it's fascinating. I said, well, you know, it's sort of like balancing your own checkbook. Can I afford to do this? You know, I know that, is there enough runway if I needed 6 months, a year? Like, it's a gut check. It's just a knowing, like, I can afford to make that marketing decision or that hire or, you know, so I just honestly used my intuition. It's like personal finances, right? Are you good with money or are you not?
If you, right, personal in terms of financial situation, starting a business for other people, what would your ideal financial situation be when starting a business? I know that's one of the biggest concerns is financial situation.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I first started Nodpod, like when I launched in October of 2015, I've had my husband of 15 years, 3 small kids. We got a divorce in January. So 2 months later, I'm like, oh my God, I just launched this website. Yeah. So, you know, dual income's much nicer than single income, right? So I had, at this moment in time, some financial decisions to make. So whether you have a lot of money or little money, I mean, you've just got these moments where you're like, okay, what can I afford? What can I not afford? And if it's, you know, if you're working full time and maybe you only have so much as a few $100s, whatever it is, you know, you just find the way. Is it friends and family? Is it credit card? Is it buying less inventory? Is it, you know, and for me, it was, well, I can afford 1 pallet at a time, and 1 pallet turns into 2, and 2 to 3, and 3 to 4, because I had the ability to reinvest in my company. So I was, but, and also, it's not an expensive product to buy. It's in the textile. So I felt lucky in a way. But if you have a great idea for an app, chances are you're going to need friends and family rounds. You're going to need some seed. You know, it's different.
Other people's help.
Yeah.
If you were to give one amount, right, the day you woke up and decided to pursue it,
Yeah.
how much money did you think about putting in? Was that like 10,000? Was that less than that? More than that? What was that?
Oh, for Nodpod?
Yeah.
I mean, it started with just hundreds and hundreds of dollars at a time. Okay, Mom, we're gonna make these masks. I'm gonna go to Joanne Fabrics, and here's a $400 or $500 bill, and the next many hundreds, or like my patent attorney, thousands.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just a matter of, like I said, funneling all of my extra cash into the business. Now, at the time, I didn't know what institutional funding. I always thought, well, you get money from the Shark Tank, friends and family, or the bank.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What private equity and venture
Loans,
capital. I didn't know that world existed, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because I own 100%. It was a harder road. It was a longer road, but I own 100% of my company.
So if you, right, and this is for advice for other people who want to start out, $10,000, you have a product. What are the steps that you're taking to use that money to, right? Is that creating a website? Is that hiring someone to look over that?
Yeah.
What is that? What steps are you taking with $10,000?
Okay, so with a consumer package good,
Yep.
let's say. Okay, so like I said, today it's a much different landscape than what it was 10 years ago. I see the commercials. Shopify, BigCommerce. You can start a website for $99. Like I hear the, so I think you can do it quite affordably. And I think in this era today too of TikTok Shop and social media, you can do it if you're comfortable with putting yourself out there. Hi, my name is, I've got this great product and here's my story. Really incredible things can happen. I mean, you don't need, sure, you need the capital investment for the product, depending on what it is. Maybe you're making something in your kitchen, like creams, or who knows, but manufacturers overseas know that you got to start somewhere. And a lot of them are willing to do low MOQs, minimum order quantity. Hey, I have my sister who's creating something pretty fantastic right now. And she calls me every day with questions. I'm like, wow, I forgot what it was like it reminds me of what it was like so many years ago with these questions that are very valid, but one foot in front of the other. And it's quite logical. Okay, you need a website. I need some product. As far as Instagram, you absolutely need a social presence, but that can be you. We're in a culture now where they want to hear from the founder. And, I'm having to get comfortable with that myself, because I'm kind of a private person. I'm not, you don't see my face a lot on social, but I because for me, it's like, it's not about me, it's about the product. But now it's like, but actually people want to hear from you, and they want to know the why. And so putting yourself out there on social, that's free. Find someone with low MOQs. Do all the work yourself. If you're working the day job, get used to long nights, working weekends. It's just how much are you willing to put into it? It really isn't
The grind,
about, yeah.
So online, put yourself out there. It's free now. It's
free.
Good way to get yourself out there and get the product out there.
Etsy.
Work in terms of, what would you do, right? Would you create a website and push your product out through social media and rely heavily on that? Where would you put the funds into?
I think I would, depending on what you're making or how many you can make at a time. Like Etsy is a great place for handmade goods or small batches, right? A website can be as simple as a landing page that just explains who are you, and it doesn't have to be so dynamic. So many pages, so much going on. You can have a one pager, just a. But I think you could definitely start something really big with $10,000. Absolutely.
In terms of navigating and attacking the market, where I had mentioned this earlier, the sleeping market, the industry, it's big.
Yeah.
For other people looking to attack big industries and trying to navigate through that, is there any advice that you'd give them specifically as underdogs in that sense?
I mean, sleep is big, right?
Yeah.
And it's becoming more important than ever before. Like when I first started in the sleep space, it wasn't as big as it's getting. And I would say, is your question more pertaining to like a sleep product, like something with the market share so large, like sleep?
any market that has like a big industry, anything
Yeah.
that's big. If you're an underdog coming into that, right? Well,
Yeah.
do you have any advice for navigating through that?
I mean, just trust yourself. If you've got something that you think is unique, is different,
Yeah.
you know, God, just champion, just believe in that and go for it. Like, hey, I've got this, I don't know, product, and if you're comparing it to the standard product that you're used to, here's how we're different. And it could be as simple as, well, it's exactly the same, but I give back. What's your ethos? How are you? I'm a big believer in giving back.
Yeah.
So it could be that value differentiator. It could be as simple as that. You sell a white mug, I sell a white mug, but I give 10% of my profits to a local this or that.
Yeah.
You know, like it can be so small and so simple, really.
Yeah. In 5 to 10 years, where do you see Nodpod going?
Oh, it's okay. So, you know, my mom the other day, wow, you really made it. Like you did it. I said, Mom, my work is, I feel like, just really beginning.
Yeah.
It really is like growing a team, the dynamics of that, scaling. We are just like, it really is starting to feel like it's getting bigger than me. And I am considering the, potentially finding someone in the private equity venture capital space, like late venture capital, because venture capital, there's stages. There's like, I have an idea. And then you give up, you see the Shark Tank, you give up more
Percentages,
equity.
yeah.
Right. I've de-risked the shit out
Most
of this
of that,
product. Okay. Sorry, am I allowed to?
No, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. So I'm not willing to give up as much, but I know that I'm willing to give up to the right partner, to the right group to
right
make
opportunity.
this. Yeah, because hey, would I love $200,000 commercial or billboard on Sunset Boulevard? Yeah, but I have a little bit of my dad in me. I'm risk averse to a point.
Yeah.
Like I'm very bullish on this product. I absolutely believe in it. It's changing lives left and right. But am I willing to put 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in a commercial that maybe just doesn't hit? Oh, it just didn't make like that. That's where I get a little bit nervous,
Iffy,
right? A little bit, yeah. So, I am, considering to really like amplify the product and put it out there in a really big way, like from a distribution angle. Yeah. So.
So you've had 100% for all 10 years?
Yeah.
So when you partner with people, are you paying them? Is that hourly? Is that?
Well, no, I have salaried employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many employees do you have under?
So I have 8 salaried, fully benefited employees. I believe in being as generous as I can because that just comes back to you, right? So, but then I have really fantastic agencies that help with the digital marketing that manages Amazon. So they feel like employees because they care and, and depending on the arrangement that we're engaged in with digital marketing, it can be, they get a percentage of ad spend. Well, they want you to do well. So, rising tides lifts all ships, right? So they get paid more, I get paid more. But I have great agencies and fantastic employees that love the challenge because as a smaller company, there's that halo effect. Okay, here's your job title, but I need you to do a little bit more outside of that. And everybody that I work with, is excited to be a part of a brand that is growing and. So there's just a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
There.
So you were still working on either whether it was the bangs or it was Nodpod specifically while you had a job, right?
So at the time, I was working with my ex-husband and we had a construction business and I learned QuickBooks. I was doing the books. Yeah. Taking the phone calls, scheduling the jobs, doing the branding, all hands, visiting the customers. So I was really, really busy doing that. And then when the kids went to bed, I was like, ooh, Shark Tank, season 1. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. And I'm I've already got a taste for what it's like with the family business. So Yeah.
So what did that typical day look like from back then when you first started the product and you were working an
Oh,
actual job?
so I mean, your brain never turns off ever. Like I dream about it. It's in the shower. Like
Wow.
when you are an entrepreneur, it's like impossible to escape. And I remember one day I was at a restaurant and the bartender, he just looked so joyful. And he's like, yeah, I'm clocking out. And I remember telling my husband, like, I wonder what that feeling is like to clock out. Like, not my problem. Don't need to check emails this weekend. I mean, as a business owner and an entrepreneur, I wonder what that feels like. I've never had a mental day off. Like,
Wow.
even like in Hawaii, like, this is nice. I'm like checking email and my husband, put your phone away. I'm like, it's physically impossible. I can't.
So typical day timestamps. What, were you waking up early? Were you sleeping late?
No,
What was that?
I've always valued my sleep. I've never been a like 1, 2, 3, like 4.
Yeah.
I've always put a high priority on my sleep long before I even launched a sleep brand. So I would say I get 7 hours, but it is, you know, working back then it was, just that period of time with the family business, it was really a lot of work. And then as that started to grow and we started to get more employees, that magical thing happens where now I have more free time. So as the scale sort of tipped in my favor, where I had more free time to like focus on, I called it my passion project because it was just me. Me with Nodpod was for years. Like I would say, gosh, if I had to go back in time, like the first solid 3-4 years, I was doing everything with Nodpod, everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. When would you? Actually, let's ask this first. You touched on it, drawing the line between health and grind, right?
Yeah.
You see all these people and all this motivation of like that Kobe mentality, and you know we had Jake on last week, and he was talking about that idea of he gets 5 hours of sleep still, right? And he's still successful and he still works. And where do you draw that line between health versus working in that grind?
It's hard because like I'm just trying now to just do a 20-minute on my Peloton. Like, but those emails or that phone call I have to, it's so hard. It's so hard. When you are pulled to work, when it's your company, when it's your idea, it's very hard. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
For me, I've always prioritized my sleep. I've always kept the sleep. I mean, I think working till 1 a.m, that's like, oof, that's I've done that a number of times. But for me, it's absolutely non-negotiable for sleep because if I'm not sleeping, I'm not productive. I feel like shit the next day. Like it's yeah. But there's a lot of sacrifices. I don't have a lot of friends. My friends are the people I work with.
Yeah.
I have a very little social life. I'm not as physically fit and active as I'd like to be.
Yeah.
So you give up, you sacrifice, but I'm looking forward to getting that back one day. I know it'll come back.
Yeah. So you value health more than you value that, or
sleep.
Okay.
I value sleep.
Yeah.
Big time.
Okay.
But
you've made sacrifices.
I've made sacrifices for
okay.
Yes, yeah.
And so starting out, if you were starting out, would you take that 1 to 2 years to really just work on it all the time, or would you really?
If you're asking me,
go back,
I will always sleep because without sleep, you are not fresh in the morning. Yeah. You're not energized. You're just dragging ass.
You're not 100%.
No, but I'd have to give up the friends, the going out, the gym class, the stuff.
Yeah, I ask every single person who's on the podcast this question.
Yeah.
As a high schooler, I procrastinate a little bit, right? And I have the ideas that don't get it done. For you in high school, what did that look like for you? What was your personality in high school and college? What was that? Did that shift from high school to college and college to real world? What did that look like?
High school. Okay. I was a goofball. I like to have fun. I was big into my friend group. I was a cheerleader in high school. I did not have a family culture of like college and grades. It was more, I'd come home and the fun, just music was on and my dad is an artist and it was just creative. And it was just, my friends would say, it was always so much fun going to your house. It was just, we were in 4-H, there were animals all around. It was just a joyful time. But my senior year, my dad and I are very close. Things shifted for him financially. He was an illustrator in LA and was very, very successful. I mean, he did movie posters and book covers you would recognize today. He did all of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky. Wow. He did
by himself?
Yeah, wow. He's an illustrator.
Yeah.
He pioneered a technique. So he's an inventor in his own right of that nobody knew how he did it. It was this way of infusing photographs on this special type of paper, 3M, I think, or Kodak paper, and he airbrushed and illustrated over it. He did The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, The Godfather. I mean, he took meetings with Steven Spielberg, but he was doing it for the love of art, and he wasn't financially, wasn't a businessman. He was an artist. Yeah. But the businessman got wealthy. He didn't have rights to his own art. He didn't know that he could negotiate these things. So he, and then I think it was around my senior year of high school, Photoshop came out. And their industry vaporized overnight. Yeah. Like I watched my dad just stress and so at a young age I kind of woke up a little bit to like life's money and life and I got just a little bit of financial help out the door, and on my desk I wish I could do more. So I know you do, Dad. I'm gonna make you proud. It's just like it's just
really real.
Yeah.
And so you went to college. You go to community college? Or?
Community college. Okay. Years and years and years of community college.
Oh, wow.
So I think a sum total of, my a couple of years, Santa Barbara. I went to Santa Barbara first. All my friends were going there. It was just following the crowd, having a good time. Friend group. And I just knew that I was going to work, get my college degree, and actually I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to go, my aunt was a therapist. I love the human condition. I love the mind. I love psychology. Yeah. Interesting, right? Because I'm leveraging that in packaging. Yeah. How full circle, right? So I that was my goal. I was going to go to college, get my degree, and go into psychology. And then I got married really young, and at the time, you had to get your master's degree to be a psychologist. And my husband said, we could really use it's the dual income, right? So my aunt, who's a therapist, said, you might really like pharmaceutical sales because it's still that human element, the health, the mind, and you're really personable and you'd be really great at sales. And I loved that job. I really loved that job. But
yeah. How important is being personable and that first impression? First impressions. I mean, how?
I've always been told I have a good handshake.
Yeah,
they're everything. That's what I'm teaching my kids. It's so important. Yeah, really important.
And so, teaching your kids, what do you look for them in terms of college? I know you just mentioned that your experience was unique. Do you want them to go to college?
Oh, and get No, I loved that experience. I loved the classes that I took. Yeah. I mean, I graduated with a degree from Sac State in public relations. Actually, I do. If you can afford to do it, you're young. It's a great time for you to be discovering yourself, discovering subjects, taking interesting classes, making lifelong friends. I mean, I really value that a lot. A lot. Yeah.
And then last question to end it off. For any, women out there, or even just business owners in general, right, who want to be an entrepreneur and pursue that path, do you have any last words or advice for anyone who feels some type of way about, being oppressed or anything, even challenged in general by trying to pursue that path of being independent?
God, just really just trust your gut. Trust thy gut. It is so, if you can really trust yourself, have that relationship with yourself. Like I talk to myself a lot. I don't know if that's weird or not, but I just do. I really value my self, what I'm thinking and feeling, and just trust that.
Yeah.
And I think that when I look back in time and people in those first 2 years, this will never sell. I don't get it. This is, it hurts. It sucks. And I spent a lot of time feeling down, and I had moments where I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to walk away from this. I'm going to take a break. And when I came back to it, I remember one time it was some weeks. I'm like, I just have got to, for my mental health, for all the right reasons, I need to just step away from this.
Yeah.
And then you come back, and you just come back, and you get some good sleep, and you just keep going. And the people that, I remember these phone calls 10 years ago. This is not going to sell. And this is dumb. Or just, you just like, okay, that's like in The Big Lebowski, the dude, that's just like your opinion, man. You just keep going.
Yeah.
Just trust yourself and just keep going. And what's interesting is maybe you'll be redirected.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe what you started with is not what you're going to end with.
Yeah.
What I'm selling today is not what my first patent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My first product was not what I'm selling today.
Yeah.
And that was balancing critical feedback and your intuition. But just trust yourself. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much
You're
for coming on.
welcome. Thank you for having me.